The first time Sophia Carter spoke to Daniel Hayes, it wasn't destiny knocking softly, it was a beautiful mistake. After a long, draining shift at the hospital, her eyes heavy and her thoughts drifting, Sophia dialed what she believed was her friend's number. But on the other end of the line, miles away in New York City, a man's voice answered, calm, deep, and slightly confused. Daniel Hayes, a 29-year-old architect, wasn't the person she intended to call, yet somehow, his voice felt like something she had been meant to find all along. Their first conversation was clumsy and short, a mix of laughter, apology, and curiosity, but when she hung up, something about it lingered. Maybe it was his warmth or the quiet smile in his tone, or the strange comfort that came from speaking to a stranger who listened without judgment. For Daniel, too, that accidental call stayed in his mind. Amid the noise of the city and the weight of his own solitude, her voice echoed like a soft melody. What should have been nothing more than a wrong number became the beginning of everything right. One accidental call became the first thread in a story neither of them could have written, a story of connection born from coincidence. Sometimes love doesn't arrive in the perfect moment. It slips through the cracks of ordinary days, turning mistakes into miracles and strangers into soulmates. Sophia laughed nervously when she realized her mistake, her cheeks warming with embarrassment. But instead of annoyance, a soft, kind laugh echoed from the other end of the line. Daniel's chuckle wasn't just polite. It carried warmth, a calm reassurance that turned her nervousness into ease. And in that tiny moment, something unexplainable shifted, as if the universe had been holding its breath, waiting for this very misstep to happen. What began as a wrong number slowly became the right beginning. Their words flowed easily, light at first, but soon rich with meaning. One conversation stretched into hours, and those hours began to spill into nights. The calls became their quiet ritual, two lonely souls connected through invisible wires, miles apart yet strangely close. Sophia's small Boston apartment, once silent and filled with nothing but the hum of city traffic, now carried the soft rhythm of Daniel's voice from Manhattan. His laughter became her favorite sound. His stories, the warmth that filled her evenings after long hospital shifts. It was through those late-night talks that they began to share pieces of themselves, their dreams, their scars, their secrets whispered in half-sleep. What started as coincidence began to feel like fate gently unfolding. Between the spaces of laughter and silence, something tender began to grow. Love didn't arrive in person or in a grand gesture. It arrived through a phone line, in the music of two voices learning how to find each other in the dark. As the nights passed, their conversations grew deeper, peeling away the layers they had shown to the world for so long. They began to share truths they had never spoken aloud before. Sophia, her voice soft and tired, talked about the exhaustion that lived within her, the long, endless hospital shifts that left her drained, and the quiet loneliness that crept into her small apartment when the world outside was asleep. Daniel listened, not with pity but with understanding. Then, with a quiet honesty of his own, he confessed how the dazzling lights of New York often masked his own shadows, how success sometimes felt empty when no one was there to share it. In those late-night exchanges, a stranger became something far more intimate, a reflection. They found themselves mirrored in each other's words, realizing that beneath the distance, their hearts carried the same ache, the same longing to be seen and understood. Their conversations became a kind of healing, a gentle reminder that Even in the vastness of two different cities, connection could bloom like light in the dark. It wasn't grand gestures or promises that drew them closer. It was the quiet courage to be vulnerable. In the safety of each other's voices, they found truth, comfort, and something that felt like home. What began as an accident now felt destined. Two souls, once strangers, seeing themselves for the first time through the reflection of another's heart. But love, as it always does, began to test them. The distance between Boston and New York, two cities that once felt like neighbors through phone calls, started to feel heavier with time. There were missed calls that lingered too long, unanswered messages that carried hidden fears, and nights when silence spoke louder than words. Doubt crept in quietly, like a shadow between their hearts. They both made mistakes, moments of misunderstanding, impatience, and longing that neither could quite explain. Yet somehow every crack that formed between them didn't destroy what they had. It strengthened it. Each apology became a thread weaving them closer than before. Every flaw they revealed became something tender, something real, proof that love wasn't built on perfection, but on the willingness to stay. Their struggles became lessons, and their wounds, instead of dividing them, became bridges, connecting hearts that had learned how to forgive and hold on. They began to understand that love isn't tested by distance or time, but by the strength to endure both. In every missed call there was still hope. In every silence, an unspoken promise that they would find their way back to each other. What once felt fragile now grew roots, deep, unshakable, and alive. Love, after all, is not about never breaking. It's about choosing to heal together, again and again, until the cracks themselves become beautiful. Sophia slowly came to understand that love was never meant to be perfect. It wasn't about flawless people or fairy tale moments. It was about two imperfect souls finding a way to fit together like pieces of a puzzle. She realized that maybe true love is when someone's broken edges align with your own, creating something whole out of what was once shattered. Where her scars ended, the marks left by loneliness, fear, and past hurt, Daniel's quiet patience began. He didn't try to erase her pain. He simply stayed steady and kind, until the pieces of her heart began to trust again. And where his fears lived, the doubts he carried, the insecurities he hid behind his calm, her courage entered. Sophia became the light that softened his shadows, the voice that reminded him he was enough. Together they learned that love doesn't grow by avoiding mistakes, but by surviving them side by side. It was in the apologies, the understanding silences, and the gentle forgiveness that their love truly bloomed. Their connection wasn't polished or perfect. It was real, messy, and beautifully human. Each flaw became a reason to hold tighter, not to let go. Sophia understood that love isn't found in the absence of pain. It's found in the choice to heal together. Their hearts didn't fit because they were unbroken. They fit because every fracture told the same story, of love that endured, mended, and finally became whole. There were nights when Daniel truly believed that the distance between them would break what they had built. The miles separating Boston and New York felt endless, like a deep, dark ocean where their voices could drown before reaching each other. Some nights the silence was heavier than words, a quiet reminder of how fragile love can feel. When it stretched across cities, across time, he would lie awake, wondering if love could survive the ache of missing someone so deeply. But then his phone would light up with her name, Sophia. Just 5 letters. Yet they carried warmth enough to melt the coldest distance. Her voice, soft and familiar, would remind him that love doesn't always need presence to be felt. Sometimes it only needs a heartbeat that answers yours. Every call was like a bridge over that dark ocean, drawing them back to each other. Even when they stumbled, when words went unsaid, when frustration built walls, destiny seemed to step in quietly, rewriting the story in their favor. It was as if the universe refused to let them drift apart. Somehow, despite the silence, despite the miles, love kept finding a way back. Daniel realized then that love wasn't just about being close, it was about believing, even when the world feels far apart, that two souls meant for each other will always find their way home. They came to understand that love doesn't need perfection. It only needs truth. Real love, they learned, isn't about pretending to be flawless. It's about daring to be seen as you are. So one quiet night, Sophia let her heart open and confessed her deepest fear. The fear of not being enough, of being loved only until her flaws showed. Daniel listened, his silence filled with tenderness, and then he spoke of his own fear, the fear of being alone, of giving his heart and not being met halfway. In that exchange of vulnerability, something beautiful began to take root. Their words, though heavy with emotion, carried healing instead of pain. Every apology they whispered became like a seed planted in trust. Every promise they made became like water that nourished those seeds. They were not building their love out of perfection but out of patience, and that made it stronger, more real. Day by day, mistake by mistake, they watched something gentle and alive grow between them. Where there once had been doubt, there now bloomed understanding. Where silence once lingered, there grew laughter and forgiveness. Their love became a garden, imperfect but thriving, fragile yet full of life. And in that garden, Sophia and Daniel found something far greater than perfection. They found peace, knowing that love isn't about avoiding mistakes, but about growing together through them. The world might say that Sophia and Daniel met by accident, just a wrong number, a random call on an ordinary night. But deep down, Sophia knew better. Accidents don't make your heart race in rhythm with a stranger's voice. Accidents don't make the world suddenly feel softer, warmer, or more alive. What she felt was not coincidence. It was something greater, something written long before either of them knew it. Daniel felt it too. He knew mistakes don't linger in your soul the way her voice did. They don't replay in your thoughts or make you smile for no reason. From the very first conversation, he sensed that life had just changed its direction, that destiny had quietly dialed the number for him. What others might call an error, Daniel felt as fate carefully unfolding its plan. It wasn't a wrong number. It was the universe crossing invisible wires so two lonely hearts could finally meet. Every misstep, every pause, every laugh shared through the phone became a thread weaving them together. They didn't just find love. Love found them, in the most unexpected way. Sophia often thought back to that night, realizing how fragile the moment was. One missed call and they would have never known each other. Yet somehow life chose not to miss. Their story became a reminder that sometimes miracles don't arrive with fireworks. They come disguised as small, beautiful mistakes. On a calm evening in Central Park, the world seemed to pause. The city lights shimmered softly on the water, and the sound of distant laughter faded into the night. Daniel held Sophia's hand gently, his thumb tracing slow circles on her skin. The air around them was quiet, yet full of every moment that had led them here. Every tear, every laugh, every misstep that had somehow turned into love. As they looked at each other beneath the glowing skyline, Both realized a simple truth that felt deeper than any promise. Love does not grow in perfection. It doesn't bloom in flawless lives or easy days. It blooms in the chaos, in the cracks where light struggles to enter. It's born in the mistakes that teach, in the forgiveness that heals, in the courage to try again after breaking. Sophia thought of her lonely nights, her wrong number, the pain of distance, and smiled because every error had been leading her here. Daniel felt the same, that the stumbles, the doubts, even the silences were not barriers but bridges. Their hands fit together like a story that had always been waiting to be told. Around them the city sparkled, not because it was perfect, but because it was alive just like their love. In that moment they knew, love's beauty lies not in never falling, but in always rising together again and again. Because of one wrong number, everything in their lives changed forever. What began as a small mistake turned into something extraordinary. Sophia found the forever she never knew she was searching for. And Daniel found the missing piece of his soul that made him whole. That one accidental call became the bridge between two lonely hearts, proving that even life's smallest missteps can lead to the most beautiful destinations. When they looked back, neither of them wished to erase their mistakes. Every wrong turn, every delay, every doubt had a purpose. They were the stepping stones that led them toward each other. If perfection had ruled their paths, they might never have met at all. Their story was written in the ink of errors and sealed by the courage to love despite them. Sophia often smiled at the thought of that first call, how a tired evening after work became the doorway to her greatest joy. Daniel would laugh softly, remembering how surprise turned into conversation, and conversation into forever. Together they came to believe that destiny doesn't shout, it whispers through the quiet chaos of our lives. In their mistakes they found meaning. In their flaws they found faith. Love didn't just happen to them, it chose them through imperfection. And in that truth their love became timeless, untouched by regret. What others saw as a wrong number, they knew as the moment destiny finally spoke.